You don't need more time, you need better timing. Every decision you make is either a strike or a stumble, depending on when you make it. You've seen it. The person who speaks too soon, the one who waits too long, the one who hesitates and loses everything. Timing isn't a gift. It's a discipline. It's the warrior's edge. You master it, or life masters you. This is your moment to learn what most never do. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind, and tell us, where are you watching from? The first stroke doesn't win the fight. The right stroke does. I am Miyamoto Musashi. I have fought over 60 duels. I have never lost, not because I was the strongest, not because I was the fastest, because I understood what most warriors never learn. Timing is the blade that cuts deepest. In my youth, I believed victory came from technique, perfect form, relentless practice. Hours spent perfecting the angle of my sword, the placement of my feet. I was wrong. Technique without timing is like a sharp blade in darkness. It cuts nothing but air. The way of the sword taught me this truth. Your actions become deadly only when executed in harmony with the moment. A mediocre technique delivered at the perfect time defeats flawless technique delivered too soon or too late. Always look at your life. How many times have you said the right thing at the wrong moment? How many opportunities have you approached with perfect preparation, but imperfect timing? How many battles have you lost, not because you lacked skill, but because you struck when the world wasn't ready to receive your blow? This is the first lesson of timing mastery. Respect the moment more than your method. The moment is sovereign. The moment decides victory or defeat. Your job is not to force the moment. It is to read it, feel it, and align with it completely. In battle, I learned to sense my opponent's rhythm before I sensed his technique. Every warrior has a pattern, a natural cadence to their movements, their breathing, their thinking. When you can feel this rhythm, you can anticipate their next move not through prediction, but through harmony. You become synchronized with their energy, and in that synchronization you find the gaps where your strike will land unopposed. Life operates the same way. Every situation has a rhythm. Every person you encounter moves to their own internal beat. Every opportunity emerges from a natural flow of circumstances that builds, peaks, and recedes like a wave. When you try to force action against this natural rhythm, you create resistance. When you align with it, your smallest effort produces maximum impact. But here's what most people don't understand. Timing is not passive waiting. It is active awareness. It is the difference between a predator and prey. Prey waits. Predators observe, calculate, and strike with precision. They don't wait for permission. They wait for the right moment, then act without hesitation. You must develop this predator's awareness in your daily life. Watch the rhythm of your workplace. When decisions get made, when resistance is lowest, when people are most receptive to new ideas. Feel the rhythm of your relationships, when your partner needs silence, when they need your voice, when they're ready to hear difficult truths. Sense the rhythm of your own energy, when your mind is sharpest, when your creativity flows, when your body demands rest. The warrior who masters timing never forces. He flows. He never rushes. He responds. He never hesitates when his moment arrives, because he has been preparing for it through constant awareness. This preparation is not mental. It is not strategic. It is spiritual. You must become so attuned to the present moment that you feel its subtle shifts like a sailor feels changes in the wind. This sensitivity cannot be learned through thinking. It must be cultivated through presence, through stillness, through the discipline of paying attention to what is not what you want to be. Your timing will improve not when you learn new techniques, but when you develop new awareness. Start today. In every interaction, ask yourself, what is the rhythm here? What is the natural flow of this moment? Am I moving with it or against it? The blade that cuts at the right moment requires no excess force. It finds the natural weakness and exploits it with surgical precision. This is your first lesson in perfect timing. Master awareness. Everything else follows. Most failure is not from weakness, but from impatience. I once faced a samurai who was faster than me. His blade moved like lightning. His footwork was flawless. Yet he died because he could not wait. He struck 3 times before I struck once. All 3 missed. My single cut found his heart. Speed without timing is chaos. Power without patience is waste. The eager warrior defeats himself before his enemy ever draws steel. You do this every day. You speak before the other person finishes thinking. You make your move before you understand the game. You chase opportunities that haven't ripened. You force conversations that need silence. You push doors that should be pulled. The mind that moves too soon moves from anxiety, not awareness. It acts to relieve its own tension, not to achieve its true purpose. This is the trap of the modern world. Everything demands immediate response, instant action, quick decisions. But the universe operates on a different timeline than your anxiety. Listen to me carefully. Your impatience is not urgency. It is fear, dressed as action. You move too soon because you're afraid the moment will pass. You're afraid someone else will take what's yours. You're afraid that waiting means missing out. This fear makes you clumsy. It makes you obvious. It makes you easy to defeat. The master understands that true opportunities don't disappear, they mature. Like fruit on a tree, they become sweeter and easier to pluck when you wait for ripeness. But most people grab green fruit because they fear someone else will take it. They end up with something bitter and hard to digest. In my duels, I learned to recognize the moment when my opponent's eagerness overcame his judgment. His breathing would quicken, his grip would tighten, his eyes would narrow with intent. These were signals that he was about to move too soon. I would create space, make myself a tempting target, and wait. When he struck prematurely, his commitment to the wrong moment left him defenseless against my response. You can use this same principle in every area of your life. In negotiations, let the other person speak first. Their eagerness to fill silence will reveal their position, their fears, their true priorities. In relationships, resist the urge to immediately respond to conflict. Give emotions time to settle. What seems urgent in the heat of anger often resolves itself in the cool of patience. But let me ask you this. Why do you move too soon? Because you don't trust the process. You don't believe that the right moment will come. You think you must. Create every opportunity instead of recognizing the ones that naturally arise. This lack of trust makes you inefficient. You waste energy forcing premature action. You create unnecessary resistance. You turn simple situations into complex problems because you won't let them develop naturally. The solution is not to move slower. It's to observe better. Before you act, ask yourself, is this the right moment or just the first available moment? Is this action necessary now, or am I acting from discomfort with uncertainty? Great timing requires great stillness, not the stillness of inaction, but the stillness of complete readiness. Like a cat before it pounces, you must be coiled, aware, patient, but instantly capable of explosive movement when the moment arrives. Practice this today. In conversations, let silence exist. In decisions, sleep on it one more night. In conflicts, respond tomorrow instead of right now. Feel how this changes the quality of your actions. Notice how patience transforms rushed reactions into thoughtful responses. The warrior who moves too soon telegraphs his intent. The warrior who moves at the right moment appears to move without warning because he has been moving with the natural flow all along. Your enemy is not the world's timing. It's your impatience with it. Master this, and you will find that the right moments come to you like iron to a magnet. You won't have to chase them. They will present themselves when you're ready to receive them. Waiting is not passive. It is a weapon. There is a difference between the man who waits because he is afraid to act and the man who waits because he knows his moment has not arrived. One is paralyzed by uncertainty. The other is empowered by it. One hopes something will happen, the other prepares for what must happen. I have spent entire battles waiting, not hiding, not hesitating, waiting with the intensity of a drawn bow, ready to release at the exact moment when my arrow will find its mark. This is not the waiting of the weak, this is the waiting of the predator. Most people cannot wait with intent because they don't understand the difference between waiting and preparation. They think waiting means doing nothing, but purposeful waiting is the most active thing you can do. While you wait, you sharpen your blade. While you wait, you study your opponent. While you wait, you position yourself for maximum advantage when your moment comes. The businessman who waits for the right market conditions isn't idle. He's preparing his capital, refining his strategy, building relationships. The lover who waits for the right moment to speak isn't silent. He's observing, understanding, creating the conditions where his words will be heard. The warrior who waits for the perfect opening isn't resting. He's coiled, ready, calculating. But here's what separates the master from the amateur. The master waits without attachment to when. He knows his moment will come, but he doesn't demand it come on his schedule. This detachment gives him power. He can wait as long as necessary because he's not waiting for relief from discomfort. He's waiting for opportunity. The amateur waits with desperation. He needs something to happen. He watches the clock. He counts the days. He suffers through each moment of delay. This suffering weakens his resolve and clouds his judgment. When his moment finally arrives, he's too tired from the wait to seize it properly. You must learn to wait like water waits behind a dam, not because it's trapped, but because it's gathering force. When the dam breaks, water doesn't trickle out. It explodes forward with accumulated power. Your waiting should accumulate power, not drain it. This means changing your relationship with uncertainty. Most people hate not knowing what will happen. Next, they want guarantees, timelines, clear signals. But the warrior embraces uncertainty as his natural element. He knows that certainty is an illusion and that the greatest opportunities emerge from the spaces between what is known and what is possible. In uncertainty, you become dangerous. Others cannot predict your moves because you're not following a predetermined script. You're responding to the moment as it unfolds. This makes you unpredictable, which is a tremendous advantage in any competition. Practice waiting with intent in small things. When someone is late, don't check your watch obsessively. Use the time to observe your environment, to think, to prepare for the conversation ahead. When you're stuck in traffic, don't rage against the delay. Accept it as time. The universe has given you to be still, to think, to plan. When you wait with intent, you send a different signal to the world. You communicate that you are not desperate, not anxious, not controlled by external circumstances. You are centered, purposeful, dangerous in the best possible way. The hunter who waits in the forest doesn't doubt that prey will come. He has studied the trails, understood the patterns, positioned himself correctly. His waiting is confident because it's informed. He waits not because he hopes something will happen, but because he knows something will happen. This is the mindset you must cultivate. Your waiting should be so purposeful that it feels like action. Your stillness should be so charged with potential that it creates its own magnetic field, drawing opportunities toward you. Remember, the master's greatest weapon is not his sword. It is his willingness to wait for the perfect moment to draw it. While others exhaust themselves with premature strikes, he conserves his energy for the one cut that matters. This is the power of waiting with intent. It transforms patience from a weakness into a strength, from a burden into a weapon. Everything around you has a beat, the market, a conversation, a career. Mastering timing means learning to feel this rhythm. Before I became undefeated in combat, I had to become undefeated in observation. I learned that every opponent moved to a rhythm, not just the obvious rhythm of their sword strokes, but the deeper rhythm of their breathing, their thinking, their fear. When I could feel this rhythm, I could predict their next move, not through analysis, but through intuition. The world operates the same way. Everything pulses with its own natural cadence. The stock market has rhythms of boom and bust, confidence and fear. Your workplace has rhythms of productivity and distraction, openness and resistance. Your relationships have rhythms of connection and space, speaking and listening. Most people are deaf to these rhythms. They move through life like a dancer who can't hear the music, always a step behind, always out of sync, always fighting against the natural flow instead of moving with it. This is why their efforts feel so difficult, why their timing feels so wrong, why their results disappoint them. But here's what most people don't understand. You don't need to create rhythm. You need to discover it. It's already there, waiting for you to tune in. Like a radio frequency, it becomes clear when you adjust your attention to the right wavelength. In my duels, I would spend the first moments not attacking, but listening, not with my ears, but with my entire being. I would feel for the rhythm of my opponent's energy. Was he aggressive or defensive? Was he patient or impatient? Did he move in quick bursts or steady flows? Once I found his rhythm, I could move in harmony with it, and then break that harmony at exactly the right moment. You can apply this same principle to every area of your life. In business, learn the rhythm of your industry. When do deals get made? When do people make buying decisions? When is resistance lowest? When is opportunity highest? Don't fight against these natural cycles. Align with them. In relationships, learn the rhythm of the people you care about. When are they most receptive to difficult conversations? When do they need space? When do they crave connection? When are they ready to hear your ideas? Stop trying to force your timing onto their rhythm. Instead, sync with their natural flow. The master salesman doesn't pitch. He listens for the rhythm of his client's needs, fears, and desires. Then he speaks in harmony with that rhythm. His words land not because they're clever, but because they're timed to the natural flow of the conversation. The master leader doesn't demand. She feels the rhythm of her team's energy, morale, and readiness. She knows when to push and when to pull back, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait. Her leadership feels effortless because it's synchronized with the natural rhythm of her people. But let me ask you this. How do you develop this sensitivity to rhythm the same way you develop any other skill, through practice and attention? Start paying attention to the subtle patterns around you. Notice when your energy is high and when it's low. Observe when your friends are talkative and when they're quiet. Feel when your workplace is buzzing with activity and when it's dragging. With fatigue, this awareness cannot be rushed. It develops slowly, like a musician's ear for harmony. But once you have it, you'll never lose it. You'll start to feel the pulse of situations before you enter them. You'll know when to speak up in meetings and when to stay quiet. You'll sense when someone is ready to hear your feedback and when they need more time to process. The rhythm of the world is not random. It follows patterns, natural cycles of expansion and contraction, action and rest, growth and decay. When you align with these patterns, your actions become effortless. When you fight against them, every step feels like climbing uphill. This is why some people seem to have all the luck. They're not lucky. They're synchronized. They've learned to feel the rhythm of their environment and move in harmony with it. Their success appears effortless because it flows from alignment, not force. Stop trying to impose your rhythm on the world. Instead, learn to feel the world's rhythm and dance with it. This is the beginning of perfect timing. When the mind stutters, action loses sharpness. I have seen skilled warriors defeat themselves through thinking. They know every technique. They understand every strategy. But in the moment of truth, their minds become their enemies. They hesitate. They second-guess. They analyze when they should act. Their thoughts create a delay between recognition and response. And in that delay, they die. Your mind can be your greatest weapon or your greatest weakness when it flows with the moment. It becomes intuitive, decisive, perfectly timed. When it fights against the moment, it becomes a source of confusion, doubt, and missed opportunities. Overthinking is not intelligence, it's fear disguised as analysis. You think you're being careful, thorough, responsible, but what you're really doing is avoiding the risk of being wrong. You're trying to guarantee an outcome that cannot be guaranteed. You're seeking certainty in a world that operates on probability. This mental stuttering destroys your timing in two ways. First, it creates delay where none should exist. By the time you finish analyzing every angle, calculating every risk, considering every option, the moment has passed. The opportunity has moved on. The conversation has shifted. The opening has closed. Second, it weakens your conviction when you finally do act. Because you've spent so much time doubting, your action carries the energy of doubt. It's tentative, hesitant, easy to deflect. Others can feel your uncertainty, and uncertainty is not persuasive. The warrior who thinks too much telegraphs his moves before he makes them. His face shows the calculation. His body language reveals the hesitation. His enemy can see the attack coming because it's filtered through layers of mental processing instead of flowing directly from instinct to action. But here's what most people don't understand. Good timing requires good thinking, not more thinking. The difference is crucial. Good thinking is preparation that happens before the moment. More thinking is analysis that happens during the moment when analysis becomes paralysis. Before I entered a duel, I would think deeply about strategy, about my opponent's weaknesses, about different scenarios that might unfold. But when the duel began, thinking stopped. There was only awareness, intuition, and response. The preparation informed the action, but it didn't interfere with it. You must learn to separate preparation time from execution time. Preparation time is for thinking, analyzing, planning. Execution time is for acting, responding, flowing. When you try to think during execution time, you create the mental stuttering that destroys perfect timing. Most people do the opposite. They think too little during preparation time and too much during execution time. They wing it when they should prepare, and they analyze when they should act. This is backwards. It's why their timing feels off, why their actions feel forced, why their results disappoint them. The solution is to think deeply before the moment, then trust your preparation when the moment arrives. Do your analysis when you have time for analysis. Make your calculations when calculation is possible. But when the moment demands action, act from instinct informed by preparation, not from real-time analysis paralyzed by doubt. Practice this in your daily life. When you're preparing for an important conversation, think through your points ahead of time. But when the conversation begins, stop thinking and start responding. When you're planning a business move, analyze the market conditions thoroughly. But when it's time to execute, trust your preparation and act decisively. The master archer doesn't think about wind direction while releasing the arrow. He feels it beforehand and adjusts his aim accordingly. The master chef doesn't calculate seasoning while the pan is hot. She tastes and adjusts based on experience and intuition, developed through years of practice. This is the difference between thinking that helps and thinking that hurts. Helpful thinking improves your preparation. Harmful thinking interferes with your execution. Learn to recognize when you're thinking because it's useful and when you're thinking because you're afraid. Your intuition is faster than your analysis. Your instincts, when properly trained, are more accurate than your calculations. But both must be developed through practice, not abandoned through overthinking. The moment you feel your mind starting to stutter, when you catch yourself analyzing instead of acting, calculating instead of responding, take a breath and remember this: the time for thinking was yesterday. Today is for doing. Tomorrow is for learning from what you did. Perfect timing flows from the space between thought and action, where preparation meets the moment without interference. Find that space, and you'll find your edge. I never attacked blindly. I waited for openings, then acted with precision. In all my duels, I understood one principle above all others. One perfect strike is worth 1,000 imperfect ones. The warrior who swings his sword 20 times and misses 20 times is far weaker than the warrior who swings once and finds his target. This is the mindset of one cut, one kill. Not because you're trying to destroy, but because you refuse to waste energy on futile action. Most people live their lives like amateur swordsmen, swinging wildly, hoping something will connect. They make half-hearted attempts at goals they don't fully understand. They pursue opportunities they're not prepared for. They take actions they don't believe in. They scatter their energy across 100 different directions, wondering why nothing lands with impact. The master operates differently. He conserves his energy for the moments when success is not just possible, but inevitable. He doesn't gamble, he invests. He doesn't hope, he knows. When he acts, it's not because he might succeed, but because failure has become nearly impossible. This requires a fundamental shift in how you approach decision-making. Instead of asking, "What should I try?" ask, "What can I not fail at?" Instead of what might work, ask what must work. This is not about guaranteed outcomes. Those don't exist. This is about acting only when the odds are so heavily in your favor that success becomes the natural result of your action. But here's what most people don't understand. This level of certainty doesn't come from external conditions. It comes from internal preparation. You create the circumstances where you cannot miss by doing the work that others won't do. You stack the deck in your favor through preparation so thorough that when you finally act, success feels inevitable. The businessman who closes every deal he pursues doesn't pursue every deal. He qualifies ruthlessly. He only pursues opportunities where he has clear advantages, where the client's needs align perfectly with his strengths, where his preparation gives him overwhelming leverage. When he makes his pitch, it doesn't feel like selling. It feels like solving an obvious problem. The negotiator who never loses an argument doesn't argue about everything. She picks her battles carefully. She only engages when she has superior information, stronger position, or clearer logic. When she speaks, it's not to convince, it's to reveal what's already true. This selective engagement is not cowardice, it's strategy. The amateur thinks he must take every opportunity, fight every battle, pursue every lead. The master knows that saying no to good opportunities creates space for great ones. He would rather wait for one perfect moment than exhaust himself on 10 mediocre ones. In my sword training, I learned to recognize the difference between an opening and a trap. An opening is a genuine vulnerability in your opponent's defense. A trap is an apparent vulnerability designed to draw you into a mistake. The amateur attacks every opening he sees. The master attacks only the openings he knows are real. How do you develop this discrimination? Through patient observation, through studying patterns, through understanding not just what you see, but what creates what you see. The real opening comes when your opponent is genuinely off balance, distracted, or committed to a course of action that leaves him vulnerable. The trap comes when he appears vulnerable, but is actually ready to counter your attack. Apply this to your career, your relationships, your investments. Don't pursue every opportunity that appears. Study it first. What created this opportunity? Why is it available to you? What are the real odds of success? What advantages do you have that others don't? What could go wrong, and how would you handle it? The moment you can answer these questions with confidence, you've found your opening. The moment you realize you can't answer them clearly, you've spotted a potential trap. Wait. Prepare more. Study longer. Your moment will come, but it might not be this moment. Remember, in battle and in life, reputation is everything. One perfect victory is worth more than 10 messy wins. One decisive action that succeeds completely is more valuable than a dozen half measures that produce mediocre results. People remember clarity, precision, and overwhelming competence, They forget lucky breaks and narrow escapes. When you strike only when you cannot miss, you build a reputation for being unstoppable. Others begin to expect your success, which makes future success easier to achieve. Your confidence grows because it's based on actual competence, not wishful thinking. This is the way of the master. Fewer actions, greater impact, inevitable results, quality over quantity, precision over power, certainty over hope. The pain of missing your moment is deeper than the pain of failure. I have seen men die not from their enemy's blade, but from their own hesitation. They recognized the perfect opening, but doubted themselves. They saw the moment, but waited for a better one. They knew what to do, but questioned their timing. When they finally acted, the moment had passed, and with it, their life. This is the cruelest truth about timing. Missed opportunities haunt you longer than failed attempts. When you try and fail, you can learn from the experience. You can adjust your approach, refine your technique, and try again. But when you fail to try at all, when you let the perfect moment slip away while you overthink or hesitate, you're left with the ghost of what could have been. Regret is not about the chances you took. It's about the chances you didn't take. It's not about the words you said. It's about the words you swallowed. It's not about the risks that didn't pay off. It's about the risks you were too afraid to take. The businessman doesn't regret the deals that went bad. He regrets the deals he was too cautious to pursue. The lover doesn't regret the relationships that ended. He regrets the feelings he never expressed. I want you to understand something about opportunity. It doesn't wait for your permission. It doesn't pause while you gather courage. It doesn't hold still while you calculate odds. Opportunity is a living thing with its own timeline, and that timeline rarely matches your comfort level. The window of perfect timing is smaller than you think and closes faster than you expect. The conversation that could change your career lasts 5 minutes. The investor who could fund your dream is interested for 2 weeks. The person who could become your partner is available for 1 evening. The market condition that favors your strategy exists for 3 months. While you're preparing to prepare, while you're planning to plan, while you're getting ready to get ready, the window closes. And once it's closed, it may never open again. In quite the same way, circumstances change. People move on, markets shift, moods evolve. The exact combination of factors that created your perfect moment scatters like leaves in the wind. This is why the warrior trains not just to recognize opportunity, but to act on it immediately when it appears. Hesitation is the enemy of timing. Doubt is the destroyer of possibility. Over-preparation is just another form of procrastination dressed up as wisdom. But here's what separates regret from lesson: how you handle the pain of missed timing. The amateur lets missed opportunities paralyze him. He becomes more cautious, more analytical, more afraid. Each missed moment teaches him to hesitate more, not less. He develops a habit of second-guessing himself that makes future opportunities even harder to seize. The master uses missed opportunities as fuel. Each missed moment teaches him the price of hesitation. Each lost window shows him the cost of overthinking. Each regret becomes motivation to act more decisively next time. He doesn't let past hesitation create future paralysis. He lets it create future boldness. Study the patterns of your own regrets. What opportunities did you see but not seize? What moments did you recognize but not act upon? What chances did you calculate but not take? Look for the common thread. Is it fear of failure, need for certainty, lack of confidence, perfectionism, whatever? Pattern you find, that's your timing weakness. That's the area where you need to build new habits, develop new reflexes, create new standards for action. If you hesitate because you fear failure, practice taking small risks until failure becomes familiar. If you wait for certainty, practice acting on probability until ambiguity becomes comfortable. The goal is not to eliminate all hesitation. Sometimes pause is wisdom. The goal is to eliminate unnecessary hesitation, the kind that comes from fear rather than prudence, from insecurity rather than strategy. Remember this: Timing is perishable. Unlike skills, which improve with practice, or knowledge, which accumulates over time, perfect timing expires. The moment that's right today may be wrong tomorrow. The person who's ready to listen now may be closed off next month. The market that favors your idea this year may have moved on by next year. This is both the urgency and the gift of good timing. It forces you to act, to commit, to choose. It doesn't let you postpone indefinitely. It demands that you show up fully in the present moment, because the present moment is all you ever really have. The deepest regret is not, "I tried and failed." It's, "I never tried at all." Don't let that be your story. Opportunities don't always knock. They whisper. Most people wait for obvious signals, clear invitations, loud announcements, unmistakable signs. They expect opportunity to arrive like thunder, impossible to miss. But the greatest opportunities move like shadows at dawn, subtle, fleeting, visible only to those who know how to look. In my years of dueling, I learned that the most dangerous attacks come not with dramatic gestures, but through tiny shifts in balance, micro-expressions of doubt, almost imperceptible changes in breathing. The amateur watches the sword, the master watches the soul. The opening that wins the fight often appears as nothing more than a slight relaxation in the shoulders, a momentary shift in weight, a brief distraction in the eyes. Life operates the same way. The promotion doesn't come when your boss makes an announcement. It comes when she mentions feeling overwhelmed in passing. The business opportunity doesn't arrive as a formal proposal. It emerges from a casual complaint about an unmet need. The romantic connection doesn't begin with a declaration. It starts with a lingering glance, a nervous laugh, a moment of shared silence that stretches just a beat too long. You miss these moments because you're looking for the wrong signals. You're waiting for certainty when life offers you hints. You're listening for shouts when the universe speaks in whispers. You're expecting doors to swing wide open when what you get are cracks of light beneath the frame. The skill of recognizing opportunity is the skill of reading subtlety. It's the ability to sense what's underneath the surface, what's not being said, what's about to change but hasn't changed yet. This cannot be taught through analysis. It must be developed through presence, through attention, through the cultivation of intuitive sensitivity. Watch how people's energy shifts before they make important decisions. Notice how markets move before major announcements. Observe how conversations change direction before breakthrough moments. The pattern is always the same. The big movement is preceded by small movements. The obvious change is telegraphed by subtle changes. But here's what most people don't understand. Recognizing the window is only half the skill. The other half is having the courage to act on incomplete information. Perfect opportunities never come with perfect clarity. By the time everyone can see the opening, it's no longer an opening, it's a crowd. The early investor doesn't wait for proof that the startup will succeed. He invests when he sees potential that others have missed. The early adopter doesn't wait for reviews and testimonials. She commits when she recognizes innovation that isn't yet validated. The early lover doesn't wait for guarantees about the relationship. He acts when he feels a connection that others haven't noticed. This requires a different relationship with risk. Most people want to minimize risk by waiting for more information. But in a world where timing matters, waiting for more information often means waiting too long. The sweet spot is acting when you have enough information to be directionally correct, even if you don't have enough to be completely certain. How do you know when you have enough? Through pattern recognition. The more you practice reading subtle signals, the more you develop intuition about which whispers to trust. This intuition isn't mystical. It's pattern matching, based on accumulated experience. Your unconscious mind processes thousands of microsignals and delivers a feeling about whether this moment feels right. Learn to trust that feeling, but verify it with action. Small actions, reversible actions, experimental actions. When you sense an opportunity emerging, don't wait for it to fully materialize. Probe it, test it, engage with it. See how it responds to gentle pressure. The person who seems to have all the luck isn't lucky. He's sensitive. He notices opportunities earlier than others because he's trained himself to recognize the early signals. He acts on those opportunities more quickly because he's comfortable with ambiguity. He succeeds more often because he's engaging with possibilities, while others are still analyzing probabilities. Start training this sensitivity today. In conversations, listen not just to what people say, but to how they say it when they pause, what they don't say. In your work, notice not just the official announcements, but the informal comments, the casual observations, the offhand complaints that reveal unmet needs. In your relationships, pay attention not just to explicit communication, but to changes in energy, shifts in attention, modifications in routine that signal deeper changes happening beneath the surface. The window of opportunity is always smaller than it appears from the outside, and larger than it appears when you're hesitating at the threshold. Train yourself to see it, trust yourself to enter it, encourage yourself to act within it. Remember, the future belongs to those who recognize it while it's still forming. Most people wait, but with desperation. I waited with detachment. There is a difference between the patience of the needy and the patience of the complete. The needy wait because they depend on a specific outcome to make them whole. The complete wait because they are already whole, regardless of what happens next. One form of patience weakens you, the other strengthens you. I have seen warriors lose fights not because they lacked skill, but because they needed to win too badly. Their desperation made them obvious. Their attachment to victory created anxiety, and anxiety creates mistakes. They fought not from strength, but from fear. Fear of losing, fear of failure, fear of not getting what they desperately wanted. The master warrior fights with what I call passionate detachment. He cares deeply about excellence, but holds no attachment to specific outcomes. He gives everything to the moment while expecting nothing from it. This creates a paradox that confuses his enemies. He is simultaneously relaxed and dangerous, patient and explosive, calm and fierce. You must learn to wait the same way. Not because you need something to happen, but because you know something will happen when the time is right. Not because you're desperate for a particular outcome, but because you're confident in your ability to handle whatever outcome emerges. The businessman who negotiates from desperation always loses, even when he gets what he asks for. His need is obvious. His attachment is transparent. The other party can sense his weakness and exploit it. But the businessman who negotiates from abundance, who wants the deal but doesn't need it, holds all the power. His detachment gives him options, and options give him leverage. This principle applies to every area of your life. The job seeker who desperately needs employment interviews from scarcity, not strength. The single person who desperately wants a relationship attracts partners who can sense their neediness. The investor who desperately needs returns makes emotional decisions that destroy wealth. But here's what most people don't understand. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without clinging. You want without needing. You pursue without chasing. You engage without being controlled by the outcome. How do you develop this kind of patience? By building strength from within instead of seeking completion from without. The warrior who knows his own capabilities doesn't need external validation to feel worthy. The person who has developed internal resources doesn't need external circumstances to provide security. This internal strength comes from preparation, from skill development, from the quiet confidence that grows when you know you can handle whatever comes. When you know you can create value, you don't desperately need others to recognize it. When you know you can solve problems, you don't desperately need easy circumstances. When you know you can adapt, you don't desperately need predictable outcomes. Practice this detachment in small situations first. When you're waiting in line, don't rage against the delay. Use it as an opportunity to practice patience. When someone is late to meet you, don't check your watch obsessively. Practice being comfortable with uncertainty. When an outcome doesn't go your way, don't immediately try to fix it. Practice accepting what is while planning what could be. The goal is to become comfortable with not getting what you want exactly when you want it. This comfort is power. It allows you to wait as long as necessary without suffering. It allows you to walk away from deals that don't serve you. It allows you to say no to opportunities that aren't quite right because you're confident that better opportunities will come. But let me ask you this. What are you attached to that weakens your position? What do you need so badly that the need itself becomes a vulnerability? What outcome are you so desperate for that the desperation sabotages your efforts to achieve it? Identify these attachments and begin to loosen them, not by caring less, but by building more. More skills, more options, more internal resources, more confidence in your ability to create value regardless of circumstances. The warrior who fights without attachment to winning fights better than the warrior who must win. The businessman who negotiates without attachment to closing negotiates better deals. The person who loves without attachment to being loved creates deeper connections. This is the paradox of detachment. When you stop needing something desperately, you often get it more easily. When you stop chasing, things start coming to you. When you stop being attached to specific timing, your timing improves. Patient without attachment, engaged without desperation, committed without clinging. This is the way of the master. This is how you wait from strength instead of weakness. In battle and in life, wasted motion weakens position. I learned early that the sword that travels the shortest distance to its target arrives first. Every unnecessary movement is a gift to your enemy. It telegraphs your intent, burns your energy, and creates openings in your defense. The master's blade moves like water, finding the fastest path downhill, direct, efficient, inevitable. Most people live their lives like amateur swordsmen, full of dramatic gestures that accomplish nothing. They fill their days with busy work that feels productive but creates no real value. They pursue 10 goals simultaneously and achieve none completely. They exhaust themselves with motion that moves them sideways instead of forward. Wasted motion comes from unclear intention. When you don't know exactly what you're trying to achieve, every action becomes experimental, tentative, inefficient. You try this approach, then that one, then another, burning energy on course corrections instead of investing it in direct progress toward your target. The businessman who schedules meeting after meeting without clear outcomes wastes motion. The student who studies everything superficially instead of mastering fundamentals wastes motion. The person who says yes to every opportunity instead of choosing the right ones wastes motion. They are all moving, but none are advancing with purpose. Efficiency is not about moving faster, it's about moving better. The master doesn't rush. He eliminates everything unnecessary. He doesn't add speed. He removes resistance. He doesn't force harder. He flows smoother. His actions become powerful, not through increased effort, but through decreased waste. Watch how a master craftsman works. Every movement has purpose. Every tool serves a function. Every minute produces progress. There are no random gestures, no wasted materials, no excess effort. The work flows from clear vision to precise execution without detours or distractions. This is the standard you must apply to your own life. Before you act, ask yourself, does this movement advance my position? Does this action serve my strategy? Does this effort produce results that matter? If the answer is unclear, the movement is probably wasteful. But here's what most people don't understand. Eliminating waste requires discipline, not just efficiency. It means saying no to good opportunities to save energy for great ones. It means doing fewer things with more focus instead of many things with scattered attention. It means accepting that not every action needs to be taken, not every opportunity needs to be pursued, not every invitation needs to be accepted. The warrior who swings his sword 10 times precisely defeats the warrior who swings 50 times carelessly. The businessman who pursues 3 deals thoroughly closes more than the one who chases 20 deals superficially. The person who develops 5 deep relationships has more support than the one who maintains 50 shallow connections. This principle applies to how you spend your time, deploy your attention, and invest your energy. Most people treat these resources as infinite, but they are finite. Every hour spent on low-value activities is an hour not available for high-value ones. Every mental cycle wasted on worry is a cycle not available for creativity. Every emotional unit invested in drama is a unit not available for love. Start auditing your movements. Track where your time actually goes versus where you think it goes. Notice which activities produce results and which produce only the feeling of being busy. Identify the patterns of waste that drain your energy without advancing your position. The most common forms of wasted motion are doing things you could delegate, pursuing opportunities you're not prepared for, engaging in conflicts you can't win, trying to please people who will never be satisfied, perfecting work that's already good enough, and solving problems that will solve themselves given time. Dakim Chum. You identify your patterns of waste, begin eliminating them systematically, not through willpower, that's another form of waste, but through better systems, clearer priorities, and stronger boundaries. Create structures that make efficiency natural and waste difficult. The goal is not to become a machine, but to become more human. When you eliminate wasted motion, you have more energy available for what truly matters. When you stop doing everything, you can start excelling at something. When you move with precision instead of volume, your actions carry weight. Remember, the blade that cuts cleanly requires less force than the blade that hacks repeatedly. The word spoken at the right moment carries more power than the speech that goes on too long. The effort applied with perfect timing accomplishes more than the effort applied with greater intensity but poor timing. Move with purpose. Act with precision. Eliminate everything that doesn't serve your advancement. This is how you transform motion into progress, activity into achievement, effort into impact. Perfect timing isn't reserved for life-changing moments. It begins with how you start your morning. The master swordsman doesn't practice timing only during duels. He practices it in every movement, every breath, every moment of stillness. How he draws his sword from its sheath when he takes his next step. How long he holds his opponent's gaze. Timing becomes a way of being, not just a skill for special occasions. You must approach your daily life the same way. The businessman, who makes perfect decisions during million-dollar negotiations but lives in chaos the rest of the time, is not a master of timing. He's lucky in big moments and wasteful in small ones. True timing mastery shows up in how you handle your morning routine, your email responses, your coffee breaks, your evening wind down. Consider how you begin each day. Do you jolt awake to an alarm, check your phone immediately, and rush into reactivity? Or do you rise with intention, create space for clarity, and enter your day from a position of strength? The first approach trains you to be controlled by external circumstances. The second trains you to be in harmony with natural rhythms. The timing of your morning sets the timing of your entire day. Wake too late, and you're chasing time until evening. Wake too early, and you're forcing energy that isn't naturally available. But wake in alignment with your body's rhythm and your mind's readiness, and the day flows with less resistance. This applies to every micro decision you make. When to check email, not as soon as you wake up, when your mind is fresh and creative, but after you've completed your most important work. When to have difficult conversations, not when you're tired and irritable, but when you have the energy to be both honest and kind. When to make important decisions, not when you're hungry, stressed, or distracted, but when you're centered and clear. Most people waste enormous amounts of energy by fighting against their natural rhythms instead of working with them. They schedule creative work when their energy is low, handle conflicts when their patience is thin, and make important choices when their judgment is clouded. They treat timing as random instead of recognizing it as a skill that can be developed. Start paying attention to your energy patterns throughout the day. When is your mind sharpest? When is your patience highest? When is your creativity flowing? When does your body want to move? When does it want to rest? These aren't random fluctuations. They're your personal rhythm, and working with it instead of against it will multiply your effectiveness. But here's what most people don't understand. Daily timing mastery isn't about rigid scheduling. It's about flexible responsiveness. The master doesn't force the same routine regardless of circumstances. He adapts his rhythm to what the day requires while maintaining his core principles of timing. Some days demand early action. Others require patient waiting. Some conversations need immediate attention. Others benefit from strategic delay. Some problems should be solved instantly. Others should be left alone to resolve naturally. The skill is in reading what this moment requires and responding appropriately. Practice timing awareness in simple interactions. When someone asks you a question, don't automatically respond immediately. Take a breath and consider whether this is the right moment for the full truth, a partial answer, or a suggestion to talk later. When you feel the urge to send that email, text, or message, pause and ask whether this is the optimal time for it to be received. Notice how your timing affects others. Your spouse may be most receptive to serious conversations after dinner, not first thing in the morning. Your boss may be most open to new ideas on Tuesday afternoons, not Monday mornings. Your children may be most coachable after they've had time to process their emotions, not in the heat of conflict. The person who masters daily timing becomes someone others want to be around. Their words land well because they're spoken at the right moments. Their requests are granted because they're made when resistance is low. Their ideas are heard because they're shared when minds are open. This is not manipulation, it's consideration. It's the art of harmonizing your needs with others' rhythms in a way that serves everyone involved. When you speak at the right time, your message is more likely to be received. When you act at the right time, your efforts are more likely to succeed. When you rest at the right time, your recovery is more complete. Start small. Today, before you speak, send, or act, ask yourself, is this the right moment? What would make this timing better? What signals am I reading from the environment, from the other person, from my own state? Perfect timing in life-changing moments grows from perfect timing in ordinary moments. Master the small rhythms, and the big ones will take care of themselves. Before I struck, I studied my opponent, their rhythm, their patterns, their tells. Every person you encounter broadcasts their timing, not through their words lie, but through their energy, their breathing, their micro-expressions, their unconscious gestures. They telegraph when they're receptive and when they're resistant, when they're confident and when they're uncertain, when they're ready to move and when they need more time. Most people are blind to these signals because they're too focused on what they want to say next instead of what the other person is actually communicating. They prepare their response while the other person is still speaking. They plan their approach without reading the room. They push forward with their agenda without sensing whether this is the right moment for it. The master reads people like the warrior reads opponents, not to manipulate, but to harmonize, to find the natural openings where influence flows easily, to sense the moments when resistance is lowest and receptivity is highest, to time actions so they align with the other person's readiness instead of fighting against it. Watch someone's breathing when they speak about different topics. Notice how it changes when they discuss something they're passionate about versus something they're uncomfortable with. Observe their posture when they're confident versus when they're defensive. See how their eye contact patterns shift when they're telling the truth versus when they're hiding something. These are not conscious behaviors. They're automatic responses that reveal the person's internal state. When you can read these signals accurately, you can time your words and actions to land when the person is most able to receive them. The successful Salesperson doesn't pitch to everyone the same way. He reads each client's communication style and adapts his timing accordingly. The effective parent doesn't discipline every child identically. She senses each child's emotional rhythm and times her guidance for maximum impact. The skilled leader doesn't motivate all team members with the same approach. He recognizes what each person needs and when they need it. But here's what most people don't understand. Observing others accurately requires observing yourself first. You cannot read someone else's emotional state clearly when you're lost in your own anxiety, excitement, or agenda. You must first become centered, present, and genuinely curious about what the other person is experiencing. This means entering conversations with the intention to understand before being understood. It means being more interested in what's happening in the other person than in what you want to happen for yourself. It means cultivating genuine empathy, not as a manipulation technique, but as a way of being present with another human being. Practice this awareness in low-stakes interactions first. When you're talking with a cashier, notice their energy level. Are they tired, rushed, friendly, distracted? When you're speaking with a colleague, observe their engagement. Are they fully present, partially listening, or mentally somewhere else? When you're conversing with a friend, sense their emotional state. Are they energized, drained, excited, worried? The goal is not to analyze or judge, but simply to notice, to develop sensitivity to the subtle signals that people constantly broadcast. This awareness changes how you interact because it makes you more responsive to what's actually happening instead of what you assume is happening. Most timing mistakes come from acting on assumptions instead of observations. You assume someone is ready to hear feedback when they're actually still processing yesterday's conversation. You assume they're interested in your idea when they're actually worried about something completely different. You assume they have energy for a complex discussion when they're actually exhausted from their day. When you learn to observe accurately, your timing naturally improves. You stop trying to force conversations when the other person isn't ready. You stop sharing ideas when minds are closed. You stop making requests when resistance is high. Instead, you wait for the natural openings, the moments when receptivity is genuine. This skill is especially crucial in difficult conversations. The person who's upset needs different timing than the person who's confused. The person who feels attacked needs different timing than the person who feels ignored. The person who's overwhelmed needs different timing than the person who's bored. Learn to recognize these different states and adjust your approach accordingly. Sometimes the best timing is immediate, striking while the iron is hot. Sometimes it's delayed, letting emotions settle before engaging. Sometimes it's indirect, creating the right conditions before having the direct conversation. Remember, perfect timing with others isn't about manipulation. It's about respect. It's honoring the other person's rhythm instead of imposing your own. It's creating space for genuine connection instead of forced interaction. When you time your words and actions to align with others' readiness, communication becomes collaboration instead of combat. Let others reveal themselves. Then make your perfect move. In countless duels, I discovered a truth that changed everything. The warrior who attacks first often loses, not because first moves are weak, but because first moves expose intention, reveal strategy, and create openings for those wise enough to wait and observe. The amateur thinks speed means attacking immediately. The master knows that speed means responding perfectly to what others reveal. While they rush to show their hand, you wait to see theirs. While they commit to a course of action based on assumptions, you respond based on information. This is not passivity. It's strategic patience. You're not waiting because you're afraid to act. You're waiting because acting second, with full knowledge of your opponent's intentions, gives you an overwhelming advantage. Let them make the first move, then make the perfect counter move. Business negotiations, the person who speaks first about price usually loses. They reveal their desperation, their limits, their strategy, before understanding the other party's position. The master negotiator creates space for the other person to expose their needs, their fears, their timeline, then responds with precision. In arguments, the person who gets emotional first usually loses credibility. They reveal their triggers, their insecurities, their lack of control. The person who remains calm while others become reactive gains authority, because emotional people reveal more than they intend, while calm people reveal only what serves their purpose. In relationships, the person who chases first often loses power. They reveal their need, their availability, their willingness to compromise their standards. The person who creates space for others to invest first builds stronger connections, because people value what they work for more than what comes easily. But here's what most people don't understand. Letting others move first requires tremendous inner strength. It means being comfortable with uncertainty, with silence, with the anxiety of not knowing what will happen next. Most people can't handle this discomfort, so they rush to act, speak, or decide just to relieve their own tension. This discomfort is your competitive advantage. While others are driven by the need to do something, anything, to feel in control, you remain centered in not knowing. While they exhaust themselves with premature action, you conserve energy for the perfect response. While they commit blindly, you choose wisely. The key is learning to distinguish between productive waiting and paralysis. Productive waiting is active observation. You're gathering information, reading patterns, positioning yourself for optimal response. Paralysis is fear-based inaction. You're frozen by indecision, overwhelmed by options, unable to move even when the right moment arrives. Productive waiting feels alert, ready, coiled. Paralysis feels heavy, stuck, confused. One is preparation for perfect action. The other is avoidance of any action. Learn to recognize the difference in your own body, your own energy, your own state of mind. Practice this principle in low-risk situations first. In conversations, let others speak first about controversial topics. Listen to their full position before revealing yours. In group settings, let others propose solutions before offering alternatives. In conflicts, let others express their emotions before sharing your perspective. Notice how this changes the dynamic. When you let others go first, you gain several advantages. You understand their position completely. You avoid unnecessary defensiveness. You can respond to what they actually said instead of what you assumed they would say. And you often discover that the conversation goes in directions you never would have predicted. The salesperson who lets prospects talk first learns what they really need instead of guessing. The leader who lets team members propose solutions first gets better ideas and stronger buy-in. The parent who lets children explain their perspective first handles discipline more effectively. This approach requires confidence in your ability to respond well to whatever emerges. If you're afraid of what others might say or do, you'll feel compelled to control the interaction by going first. But if you trust your ability to handle any situation, you can afford to let it unfold naturally. Most people fear that letting others go first means losing control. But the opposite is true. By letting others reveal their position first, you gain the ultimate control, the ability to respond with complete information instead of partial guesswork. Remember, the warrior who waits for his opponent to attack doesn't wait passively. He creates the conditions that invite the attack he wants to counter. He positions himself to make certain moves tempting to his opponent, then responds with devastating precision when those moves are made. Apply this to your daily life. Instead of rushing to fill every silence, create space for others to fill it first. Instead of immediately offering your opinion, ask questions that reveal others' thinking. Instead of defending your position before it's attacked, let others reveal their objections so you can address the real issues instead of imaginary ones. The enemy who moves first shows you exactly how to defeat them. Your job is to be patient, enough to see it, wise enough to understand it, and skilled enough to exploit it. Never interrupt your enemy when they are making a mistake. I have won battles without drawing my sword, not through magic or mysticism, but through the simple wisdom of letting my opponents defeat themselves. When you see someone moving toward destruction, the best strategy is often to step aside and let them complete their journey. Time becomes your weapon. Patience becomes your shield. Most people cannot resist the urge to intervene when they see chaos unfolding. They feel compelled to fix, to correct, to prevent disaster, even when the disaster serves their interests. This compulsion comes from anxiety, not strategy. It reveals a lack of trust in natural consequences and an overestimation of their ability to control outcomes. The master understands that chaos is often the fastest path to clarity. When systems are unstable, when people are making poor decisions, when situations are spiraling toward natural conclusions, intervention only delays the inevitable while expending your energy unnecessarily. Watch how this plays out in business. The competitor who is overextending themselves, burning through capital, alienating customers, do you try to warn them? Do you compete harder to speed their downfall? Or do you simply focus on your own excellence while they create their own destruction? The wise business person chooses the third option. In relationships, when someone is revealing their true character through poor choices, do you try to save them from themselves? Do you argue with their decisions? Or do you quietly observe and let their actions speak louder than any words you could offer? People reveal who they really are when they think no one is watching, or when they're too emotional to maintain their facade. The person who interrupts this natural process of revelation often saves others from consequences they need to experience. They prevent the learning that only comes from natural feedback. They delay the clarity that only emerges when people fully commit to destructive patterns and see where those patterns lead. But here's what most people don't understand: letting chaos play out doesn't mean being passive or indifferent. It means being strategically patient. You're not ignoring the situation. You're allowing it to reach its natural conclusion so you can respond to reality instead of possibility. This requires tremendous self-control. Every instinct will tell you to act, to interfere, to try to control. The outcome: your anxiety will interpret inaction as weakness. Your ego will want to demonstrate your superior judgment. Your fear will imagine catastrophic scenarios that your intervention could prevent. Resist these impulses. Remember that most chaos is self-correcting. Most mistakes are self-punishing. Most poor decisions create their own consequences without requiring your assistance. Your job is not to prevent every disaster. It's to position yourself advantageously relative to the disasters you cannot and should not prevent. The politician who lets their opponent continue speaking when they are damaging themselves. The negotiator who remains silent when the other party is making unreasonable demands that expose their desperation. The parent who allows natural consequences to teach lessons that lectures never could. The investor who watches bubbles inflate without participating, knowing that gravity always wins eventually. This approach requires a longer-term perspective than most people possess. They see immediate chaos and want immediate resolution. They can't tolerate the discomfort of watching things get worse before they get better. They prefer the illusion of control that comes from intervening to the actual control that comes from positioning. Practice this discipline in small situations first. When someone is telling a story that makes them look bad, don't try to rescue them. Let them finish. When a colleague is proposing a plan you know will fail, don't immediately object. Let them fully present their idea so its flaws become obvious to everyone. When a friend is making a decision you disagree with, don't rush to convince them. Otherwise, let them experience the natural consequences of their choice. The goal is not to become callous or indifferent to others' welfare. The goal is to become wise about when intervention helps and when it hurts. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is allow someone to experience the full cost of their decisions. Sometimes the most strategic thing you can do is let chaos run its course while you prepare for what comes next. Remember, in nature, forest fires clear undergrowth and create space for new growth. Storms redistribute resources and reveal what was built on solid foundations. Chaos serves a purpose that artificial intervention often disrupts. When you see chaos beginning, ask yourself, will this chaos ultimately serve a purpose? Will intervention delay necessary learning? Will stepping aside allow natural consequences to create better outcomes than my interference could achieve? Sometimes the answer is yes, and your timing wisdom lies in knowing when to act and when to wait, when to engage, and when to observe, when to control, and when to let go. Even the master misses. What matters is how you recover. I have mistimed attacks. I have read opponents incorrectly. I have acted when I should have waited, and waited when I should have acted. The difference between the master and the amateur is not that the master never makes timing mistakes, it's that he recovers from them faster and learns from them deeper. Perfect timing is not about never being wrong. It's about recognizing when you're wrong quickly, adjusting immediately, and finding your rhythm again without losing your center. The warrior who expects never to miss becomes rigid when he inevitably does. The warrior who expects to miss sometimes stays flexible and adaptive. When your timing goes wrong, the first mistake is compounding it with desperation. You spoke too soon, so you speak more to try to fix it. You acted too late, so you overcompensate with rushed action. You misjudged the moment, so you force a correction that creates an even bigger misalignment. This is how small timing errors become large disasters. Not because the original mistake was fatal, but because the panicked response to the mistake destroys whatever natural recovery was possible. The person who stumbles and then flails often falls harder than necessary. The person who stumbles and regains balance quickly often emerges stronger. The key to recovery is accepting the missed timing without judgment or desperation. You made a mistake. The moment is what it is now, not what it was before your error. Your job is not to undo what happened. It's to find your footing in the new reality your mistake created. This requires letting go of the original plan. Most people cannot do this. They become attached to their initial strategy and spend enormous energy trying to force it to work despite changed circumstances. They refuse to adapt because adaptation feels like admitting failure, when actually adaptation is the skill that prevents failure from becoming catastrophe. I learned this lesson in a duel where I attacked too early. My opponent was not where I expected him to be, and my blade found air instead of flesh. In that moment I had two choices: try to force my original attack to work, or immediately adapt to the new position his evasion had created. I chose adaptation. My missed attack became a feint that set up a successful counterattack. The same principle applies to every area of life. The entrepreneur whose product launch is mistimed doesn't keep throwing money at the original strategy. She analyzes what the market's response revealed and adjusts accordingly. The parent whose disciplined technique backfires doesn't escalate the punishment. He changes approach based on what his child's reaction showed him about the real issue. But here's what most people don't understand. Good recovery requires the same skills as good timing: awareness, flexibility, and detachment from specific outcomes. You must be able to read the new situation clearly, adapt your strategy fluidly, and release attachment to your original plan gracefully. The biggest obstacle to recovery is ego. Your ego wants to be right about the original timing. It wants to prove that your first instinct was correct. It resists the information that your mistake revealed because that information suggests you misread the situation initially. This resistance keeps you stuck in failed strategies instead of moving toward effective ones. Practice recovering from small timing mistakes to build skill for larger ones. When you send an email at the wrong time and get a harsh response, don't. Immediately send another email defending yourself. Wait, reflect, and respond when emotions have cooled. When you bring up a topic at the wrong moment and encounter resistance, don't push harder. Acknowledge the bad timing and ask when would be better. The goal is to become someone who makes timing mistakes gracefully. Others will remember not that you misjudged the moment, but that you handled the misjudgment with composure and wisdom. They'll trust you more, not less, because they've seen how you respond to your own errors. Recovery also requires learning what went wrong so you can avoid similar mistakes in the future. Was your timing off because you were too eager, too anxious, too attached to a specific outcome? Did you misread the other person's state? Did you ignore subtle signals that suggested waiting? Did you act from emotion rather than awareness? Most timing mistakes follow predictable patterns. You rush when you're nervous. You hesitate when you're uncertain. You force when you're desperate. You delay when you're overwhelmed. Once you recognize your personal patterns of mistiming, you can develop awareness of the internal states that lead to those patterns. The master's advantage is not that he has perfect timing, it's that he has perfect recovery. He misses, adjusts, and finds his rhythm again so quickly that observers often don't even notice the original error. What looks like flawless execution is actually flawless adaptation. Remember, timing mastery is not about achieving perfection. It's about developing resilience. The warrior who can recover from any mistake is more dangerous than the warrior who tries never to make one. Flow with your errors as gracefully as you flow with your successes. Timing is not rigid, it is adaptable. You must be like water, flexible, observant, and like fire, decisive and forceful when your moment comes. Water teaches the first half of perfect timing, adaptability. It flows around obstacles instead of fighting them. It finds the path of least resistance without losing its essential nature. It changes shape to fit any container while maintaining its power to reshape whatever contains it. It moves patiently through the smallest openings and explosively through the largest ones. Fire teaches the second half, decisive action. When conditions are right, fire doesn't hesitate. It consumes everything available instantly. It doesn't doubt, negotiate, or gradually warm up to the idea of burning. It commits completely to the moment, transforming everything it touches with absolute conviction. The master of timing combines both natures. Like water, he adapts to circumstances without losing his core purpose. Like fire, he acts with complete commitment when his moment arrives. He flows flexibly until the perfect opening appears, then strikes with devastating precision. Most people master only one element or neither. They are either too rigid, always trying to force their predetermined timing regardless of circumstances, or too fluid, adapting endlessly without ever committing to decisive action. The first type breaks when bent. The second type flows forever without creating impact. The successful entrepreneur flows like water during market research, customer discovery, and product development, adapting to feedback, changing direction when necessary, remaining flexible about methods while staying committed to mission. But when the right market opportunity appears, she strikes like fire, moving quickly, committing resources, executing with intensity before the window closes. The effective parent flows like water most of the time, adapting to each child's personality, adjusting approach based on what works, remaining flexible about tactics while maintaining consistent values. But when safety is at stake or boundaries are seriously challenged, he acts like fire, swift, decisive, non-negotiable. The skilled negotiator flows like water during information gathering, listening, adapting, responding to what the other party reveals. But when he recognizes the moment for closing, he becomes fire, direct, confident, compelling, unwilling to let the opportunity slip away through excessive deliberation. But here's what most people don't understand. The transition from water to fire must be seamless. You cannot be tentative water that gradually becomes hesitant fire. The shift must be instantaneous, complete, committed. One moment you're flowing and adapting. The next moment you're burning and transforming. This requires developing sensitivity to the signals that indicate when to shift modes. Water mode is appropriate when you need more information, when circumstances are changing rapidly, when resistance is high, when the cost of waiting is low. Fire mode is appropriate when you have enough information to act, when conditions are optimal, when resistance is minimal, when delay means lost opportunity. The amateur tries to be fire all the time, always pushing, always forcing, always trying to make things happen through intensity. He exhausts himself fighting against natural rhythms instead of working with them. The amateur tries to be water all the time, always adapting, always waiting, always gathering more information instead of acting on what he already knows. Neither approach alone creates consistent success. Pure fire burns out quickly when it encounters resistance. Pure water eventually evaporates without creating lasting change. But water that can become fire at the perfect moment, that combination is unstoppable. Practice shifting between these modes consciously. In conversations, flow like water while you're learning about the other person's perspective, needs, and concerns. But when you recognize the moment they're ready to hear your main point, shift to fire, clear, direct, compelling. In projects, flow like water during research and planning phases. But when it's time to execute, become fire, focused, urgent, committed. The key is developing trust in both your adaptability and your decisiveness. You must believe that you can flow around any obstacle and that you can strike through any opening. Without this confidence, you'll either force when you should flow or flow when you should strike. Watch how nature demonstrates this principle. Rivers flow like water for thousands of miles, adapting to every landscape, moving around every obstruction. But when they encounter a cliff, they become waterfalls, instant, powerful, transformative. The same substance, the same essential nature, expressing itself in completely different ways based on what the moment requires. This is your model for perfect timing. Maintain the fluid awareness of water and the decisive power of fire. Flow when flowing serves your purpose. Strike when striking serves your purpose. Never confuse the two or try to do both simultaneously. Remember, timing mastery is not about choosing between patience and action. It's about knowing when each is appropriate and being able to shift between them effortlessly. Be water until the moment demands fire, then be fire completely. This is deeper than tactics. It is spiritual. Align with time, and you no longer chase moments. You become the moment. After decades of perfecting timing in combat, I discovered something beyond technique, beyond strategy, beyond even wisdom. I found that perfect timing is not about mastering time. It is about dissolving the separation between yourself and the flow of existence itself. When this happens, you don't have good timing. You are timing. Most people live in constant conflict with time. They are always behind schedule or ahead of themselves, always rushing to catch up or waiting for something to begin. They treat time as an external force to be managed, controlled, or overcome. This relationship creates friction, anxiety, and the perpetual feeling that life is happening to them rather than through them. The master discovers a different relationship entirely. He stops fighting time and starts dancing with it. He stops trying to impose his rhythm on the world and starts finding his place in the world's rhythm. This is not surrender. It is integration, not passive acceptance, but active harmony. When you align with time itself, several things happen simultaneously. First, you stop experiencing time as scarcity. There is always enough time for what truly matters because you no longer waste energy fighting against the natural pace of things. You work with time's rhythm instead of against it. Second, you develop intuitive knowledge of when to act and when to wait. This knowledge doesn't come from analysis or planning. It arises from being so connected to the present moment that you feel its natural direction, like a sailor feels the wind. You sense when energy is building toward action, and when it's moving towards stillness. Third, your actions become effortless because they flow from alignment rather than force. Like a leaf falling exactly when its time comes, your movements arise from natural readiness rather than artificial urgency. Others can feel this difference. Your words carry weight because they emerge from appropriate timing. Your decisions feel inevitable because they arise from perfect positioning. But here's what most people don't understand. This harmony cannot be achieved through trying. The harder you work to control timing, the more elusive it becomes. The more desperately you seek the perfect moment, the more it retreats from you. Harmony with time emerges from a paradox. You must care deeply while holding lightly. This means being completely present with whatever is happening now while remaining unattached to when anything else will happen. You engage fully with this moment, without demanding that the next moment arrive on your schedule. You act decisively when action is called for, while accepting completely when waiting is required. The businessman who embodies this principle doesn't chase deals. He creates value and allows deals to emerge naturally from that value. The artist doesn't force inspiration. She shows up consistently and allows creativity to flow through her when conditions are right. The leader doesn't manipulate timing. He serves the natural evolution of his organization and acts when his actions will have maximum positive impact. This is the deepest level of timing mastery, becoming a clear channel for appropriate action. Your ego stops trying to make things happen and starts allowing things to happen through you. Your personality becomes an instrument for perfect timing rather than an obstacle to it. Practice this harmony in moments of stillness first. Sit quietly and feel the rhythm of your own breathing, your heartbeat, the subtle energy that animates your body. Notice that you don't control these rhythms. They arise naturally from the intelligence that sustains life itself. This same intelligence creates the perfect timing for everything else. Extend this awareness to your daily activities. Instead of forcing your agenda onto each day, feel what this day wants to become. Instead of demanding that conversations go according to your plan, sense what wants to be said and heard. Instead of pushing projects forward on arbitrary timelines, feel when they're ready to advance naturally. This doesn't mean becoming passive or abandoning all planning. It means holding your plans lightly enough that you can recognize when life offers something better. It means being prepared to act decisively while remaining open to acting differently than you expected. The master swordsman doesn't plan exactly when to strike. He prepares completely and then allows the perfect moment to reveal itself. When it does, his action feels inevitable, like water flowing downhill or fire consuming dry wood. There is no hesitation because there is no separation between his intention and the moment's readiness. This is the ultimate teaching of perfect timing. You are not separate from time. You are an expression of time, a unique way that the universe experiences itself in this moment. When you align with this truth, your timing becomes perfect, not because you control it, but because you embody it. Stop chasing moments. Start becoming them. This is the way of the master. You've learned the blade. Now learn when to draw it. Everything I have taught you leads to this moment. Not the moment when you finish listening to these words, but the moment when you choose to apply them. The moment when theory becomes practice. The moment when understanding becomes action. The moment when you stop learning about timing and start living it. That moment is coming. It might arrive today when someone asks you a question, and you pause before answering, feeling for the right response instead of rushing to fill silence. It might come tomorrow when you sense an opportunity emerging and choose to prepare quietly, instead of announcing your intentions. It might unfold next week when you recognize that a difficult conversation is ready to happen, and you speak your truth with perfect timing instead of perfect fear. Your moment is not one moment. It is every moment when you choose awareness over reactivity, patience over urgency, precision over force. It is every time you read the rhythm of a situation before acting within it. It is every instance when you let others reveal themselves before revealing yourself. It is every decision to wait with intent rather than act from desperation. The path of timing mastery has no destination because it has no end. There will always be more subtle signals to read, deeper rhythms to feel, more perfect moments to recognize and seize. But this is not a burden, it is a gift. It means your growth never stops, your effectiveness never peaks, your ability to create impact never reaches its limit. You now understand what most people never learn, that timing is not luck, not intuition, not a mysterious gift available only to the chosen few. It is a skill that can be developed, a discipline that can be practiced, a way of being that can be cultivated through conscious effort and patient observation. You know that perfect timing begins with perfect presence, the ability to be fully here, fully now, fully aware of what is actually happening, instead of what you think should be happening. You understand that it requires the courage to act decisively when your moment arrives, and the wisdom to wait purposefully when it hasn't. You have learned to flow like water around obstacles and strike like fire through openings. You can read the subtle signals that others miss and position yourself to take advantage of opportunities before they become obvious to everyone else. You know how to let others move first so you can respond with superior information, and how to let chaos play out when intervention would only delay natural consequences. Most importantly, you understand that timing mastery is not about controlling time. It is about harmonizing with it, about finding your place in the natural rhythm of existence and moving from that place with power, precision, and purpose. But understanding is not enough. Knowledge without application is just entertainment. Wisdom without practice is just philosophy. Everything you have learned means nothing until you use it to change how you move through the world. Start today. Start now. Start with the next conversation you have, the next decision you make, the next opportunity you encounter. Don't wait until you feel ready. Readiness comes through practice, not preparation. Don't wait until the stakes are low. Timing skills develop faster under pressure. Don't wait until you're certain. Certainty comes from experience, not analysis. The businessman reading this will find opportunities to apply these principles in negotiations, presentations, hiring decisions, and strategic planning. The parent will discover better timing for discipline, guidance, encouragement, and difficult conversations. The leader will develop superior instincts for when to push and when to pull back, when to speak and when to listen, when to act and when to wait. The student will learn not just what to study, but when to study it, when to ask questions, when to challenge ideas, and when to remain silent and absorb. The artist will discover the rhythm of creativity, the right moments for different kinds of work, the perfect timing for sharing versus protecting new ideas. Whatever your role, whatever your challenges, whatever your goals, the principles of perfect timing will make you more effective, more influential, more successful in ways that matter to you. Not through manipulation or force, but through alignment with the natural intelligence that creates perfect moments. Your timing will not be perfect immediately. Masters are not made overnight. But every time you pause before reacting, every time you wait for the right opening, every time you sense the rhythm of a situation before acting within it, you move closer to mastery. Trust the process. Trust your developing instincts. Trust that your moment is coming, not someday in some distant future, but now, in this life, in these circumstances, with these opportunities. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it.